Hello and welcome to the Stringer Podcast number 34. I almost said the hockey podcast because right before we had started, we were talking about hockey. Bad start to the year for me, obviously, in 2019, but great start for the podcast. We have Kristian Jack on the show this week. Kristian is a well-known Canadian soccer reporter. He came over from Great Britain right around 2000, and we talk about his time at The Score, his time at TSN, and we've kicked off, I'm not sure if you heard, we kicked off a brand new podcast as part of the Stringer family. It's called KJ and Caldwell, a football podcast. So we don't get into that at all, Dylan. We went the full hour. We didn't talk at all about the new podcast.
But we knew. We knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming, so maybe we just didn't have to. So get to know Kristian Jack, I guess. Great music mind. We kind of go through some of his favorites and the time that he got to interview one of the Gallagher brothers. We talk about, as I said earlier, his move over here and just, soccer, his soccer life in general, and the way our lives have intertwined a couple times during a couple big Toronto events. So yeah, Kristian Jack, at Kristian Jack on Twitter, or you can follow at a football pod, which is the Twitter account for the new football podcast. Oh, and at a football pod on Instagram. It's the exact same. Before we get to that, though, we got some weekend news for you. Friday, January 11th. Actually, I was really excited because I had picked something else for Friday, but then I saw this. This came up. A Princess Bride showing at the Cinesphere. I haven't seen any shows yet at the Cinesphere since they've reopened it and started showing films in there. This might be my first. This might be the one that I want to go see. 7:30 it plays, 955 Lakeshore Boulevard West. You can't stinking miss it. It's right on the water in Ontario Place. Head over to ontarioplace.com and you can get your tickets 7:30 p.m. on Friday to see The Princess Bride, probably one of the most quotable comedies of my early childhood, at least, I think, in comedy land. It's one of the ones that I was allowed to watch. Saturday, January 12th, Trevor Noah is at the Sony Center for the Performing Arts. Just for a Laugh is bringing comedian and host of The Daily Show, Trevor Noah, to the Sony Center. That is the best description I've ever had because it's right to the point. It's only one paragraph long. Trevor Noah, 7 and 7:30, 2 shows on Saturday, 1 Front Street East. If you want tickets, Seat Giant can be your hookup. Head on over to seatgiant.ca. You can search Trevor Noah. You can search Saturday, January 12th. You can search Toronto alone if you want, or the Sony Center. Any of those 4 things. Just search them. Trevor Noah's going to come up and get yourself some awesome tickets for what's going to be a great show. I think he's here all weekend. At least Friday and Saturday he has shows. Sunday, January 13th. This is not so much an event I think you should go to, but it's a public service announcement. I feel like I have to impart this on you so that you stay away from it if you really don't want to see what's going on. It's a no-pants subway ride at 3 p.m. It starts at the Eaton Centre in downtown Toronto and goes to Osgood Station. It's happening simultaneously in 50-plus cities around the world. The No Pants Subway Ride is a celebration of silliness to bring a smile to commuters' faces. I don't know if a smile is what they're going to get. Don't forget your dance shoes. They're throwing up No Pants Dance After Party. That's really hard to say. I would just wish they had a Trevor Noah description, including dance-offs and prizes for the raddest no pants. It starts at 3 p.m. You meet upstairs at the Eaton Centre, the Dundas Street entrance at 3:20-ish. They lose their pants. 3:50-ish. Pantless parade from Osgood Station to the after party, and 4 p.m. the after party kicks off. So as I said, this is not something I'm going to be attending. It's kind of weird. It's like that naked bike ride that happens. Totally not my scene, but I thought you should be aware in case you're bringing your kids downtown to go shopping, pick up some winter clothes, I don't know, stuff you do on Sunday. Watch out for the no pants party on the subway. Okay, that's it for the weekend. If you don't love our ideas, it's cool. I get it. It wouldn't be the first time, but you can do one of 2 things. You've got to act, though. You got to do something. You can either reach out to us with something that you've got coming up that you'd like us to promote because you're going to be there by hitting us up on Twitter at Stringer Podcast or shooting us an email, events@thestringer.ca, or you can just go to seatgiant.ca and figure out your own damn weekend. You don't need us. You're a big boy or girl. You know what you're doing. They've got everything from concerts, sporting events, theater, live shows, and comedy. Just use promo code STRINGER at the very end, and you can save yourself a couple dollars on your purchase. That's everything I got for you before we get to Kristian Jack. Remember, he's at Kristian Jack on Twitter, or you can follow him with the newly minted, now ready for subscription, KJ and Caldwell Football Podcast at a football pod on Twitter and Instagram. Okay, Dill, my voice, have I let you speak at all during this opening?
I'm not here. This is 2019. I don't speak at all.
No more speaking for Dill. We'll see about that, Dylan Wilson. No, I think we're just both hungry and we want to get lunch. Happy New Year. Let's ring it in the way I like to ring everything in, with a sax. Speaking and
I'll try.
I'll do my best.
I heard a funny story. Is it true that you've brought your own windscreens before for microphones? Did I hear that? No. Oh, I did hear that. But I was like, oh no. I'm like, are we gonna have to have a separate set just for KJ? Just so you know, it's like you can take it out of the wrapping. I remember.
That's not me.
I remember, I'm not going to say who I was working for because it wasn't Leafs TV at the time, but they wanted me to use a communal IFB.
Oh, really?
And I was like, no, I'm good, thanks. I brought my own.
Yeah.
Like, I have it. They're like, oh, no, it's cool. We clean it every time. And I'm like,
I don't care.
No, it has to go in my ear. Not that there's anything in my ear. Like, it's not like I'm ingesting anything. I don't think there's anything.
No.
Like, I don't know what we could transmit. Like, there's not pink ear disease that could transmit, but I just don't want to.
No, I'm with you.
I don't want to think about it.
No, I do carry a pack of wipes around a lot with me.
Do you?
I do clean down my entire seat in a plane, the entire seat.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Before you
screen, armrests, seatbelt.
Because you just don't.
Well, they don't clean that, and literally, a lot of the flights I've just done lately, the plane has just arrived. I've just watched those people get off.
Right.
10 minutes later, I'm going back and I'm sitting in that person's seat who's been touching the screen and everything.
And it's not your.
Well, I mean, who knows what they have?
I know what I don't like is when they didn't get the garbage out of the pocket.
Yeah.
And so usually I get on the plane pretty quickly.
Right.
And I'll grab it and I'll stuff it in the one next to me. I don't want to.
That's the equivalent of getting in an elevator and going, the guy's coming, press the button to close the door.
Do you live in a house or in a building?
I'm in a house.
Oh, you're in a house. Okay. Yeah. No, there's some days you can gauge how happy I am based on how I treat people, what my elevator etiquette is.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I'll get home and Saturday night, I had just one of those nights with the boys, but I get home and you're not having anybody. You're like, I gotta get upstairs quick. And then you can hear, because you have to go in the main door where you swipe your key card, then go around a corner. So if your doors are opening and you hear someone buzz in, you know that you've got a good 15 seconds before they round the corner and see the elevator.
It's class.
And you can just really quietly do it.
Yeah.
The worst is I've had it where I hear the person mashing the button, even on my floor, because they hear me lock my door and I go to the elevator and I can hear them. And I'm like, motherfuck. Yeah, I didn't want to ride with them anyway, and I just take the stairs.
I think they should just make a rule now where, you have elevators and you have you go to a condo building and you have 3 elevators. Just make one of those elevators only if you want to ride on your own. And if so if there's, just see if there would be a lineup that one's available, you got to go with the people. But no, I'm taking this. You line up.
Fantastic idea. It's the express line,
exactly,
or a kind of express
actually
line.
It could be longer, but you just don't want to. You don't want to get in the elevator.
You don't want to deal with it,
so you have to go on your own. I'm waiting.
Or they could just take what purpose does the close button have in an elevator?
Exactly.
Just remove it.
That's true.
You could keep the open button. I get that.
Yeah.
I one time was walking my dog and I just wasn't paying attention. She pulled at the last second and ran out the door back towards my apartment.
Okay, yeah.
And so you have to hold open, and the people in the elevator held the door open while I went and got my dog. I get that. What do you need the closed one for?
I'm with you.
Kristian Jack on the podcast today. How's that for an intro?
There we go.
We're really good people, I swear. On the inside, deep down.
It's all good.
How's it going? We're recording this in December, so we're right ahead of the holidays. How are your shopping done? Your planning done?
Yes.
What's the holidays like in the Jack household?
It's all done, really. I mean, I don't. We have a big birthday in my house, so my daughter turns 12 on Christmas Eve. So that is really the beginning of all the festivities, but it's also the delay of Christmas a little bit because it just comes down to her and it's all about her. So it's a special day. It's a special day for her, and she loves it. When we had her, it was always one of those concerning things. It's right near Christmas, and everyone's like, oh, that's a shame. Like, no. Jenny and I were like, no, we are very determined to make this extremely positive for her, and it has been. She loves it. She's off school every year for Christmas, for her birthday, and she has a big day. So to answer your question, it's all about her right now, and as it should be, and then Christmas morning will be a whole new day. So
you have 2 kids, right?
Yes, my son just turned 8. Yeah.
How does he react to the whole Christmas thing? Because that's where I would be worried. I grew up with 2 other brothers, and first of all, brothers can be a pain. Like, the boys are their own, like, warped little humans.
Yes, they are.
And I would totally, if my brother's birthday was near Christmas, I would be the one thinking that I have to screw this up for him. It's not fair that he gets, like, glory for 3 days or whatever. I've got to find a way to mess this up. So your boy, but being at 8, maybe he's
pretty good, actually.
He's still a good kid.
Yeah, he's good.
Hasn't been spoiled yet by hormones?
Not at all. No, actually, he's I don't know. We've done something really well with him, I think. I don't know. I don't know how we've done it sometimes, but he's a better human than we are, for sure. There's no question about that. He's got a heart of gold. He's excited for a birthday as well, so it'll be good.
You have a brother.
I do. Yeah. Younger brother.
Oh, he's younger.
Yeah,
and just the 2 of you?
He looks older, though. You were about to say you thought he was older, right?
I always let people say that. I don't want him listening to this and be like, they always say that.
That's all good.
Damn Canadians.
It's just the grey on my brother's hair that makes people think. The one good thing about being blonde is that it hides the grey a little bit longer.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got it. Like, the odd time I see it coming in my beard.
Yeah.
And I'll see, like, the odd one come in. I'm like, oh, don't you dare.
So you've got the rocking the wicked beard right now.
Oh,
I don't have a beard because we literally just did my show yesterday.
Right.
So people who see me and I haven't been on TV for a while, they were like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I would have this all the time if I could. I have to shave for my show.
Because there's like a balance, and I'll notice it where it's just, you get out of the shower or whatever, and you're getting yourself ready, and you look up, and you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, oh no, you look homeless. Like, it's time to trim it back. No, I like it's meant to be there look.
Yes.
Like, it's supposed to be on your face.
I'm with you. You don't want to go all like Brent Burns, San Jose Sharks.
No. And it's just long and scraggly and disgusting.
Yeah. It needs trimming.
I came across something interesting, that you decided as a family to move over from England.
That's
It wasn't just a you decision.
It's true.
It was a whole family decision. And you're like, oh no, we thought we could find, a better, I don't want to say better life, a different life.
Yeah.
What was it? Because you're 20 odd at the time.
Yeah, very early 20s.
Your brother's probably then a couple years younger than you.
Yes.
Not older than you yet.
That's right.
He will get older than you in a few years.
Yeah.
But what is the catalyst to that decision? What's going on that you're like, hey, you know what? North America, you got something right.
It's probably the one question I get asked more than anything else.
Oh, so then we'll move on.
No, in terms of the reasoning for it, I think the thing is with my field is that there's a lot of people who absolutely adore England, because of what I do, and I do the Premier League, and everybody who loves it over here just like, why would you want to leave that country? And it was never really about leaving something that was broken. It was about finding something better. And I've always been obsessed is a strong word, but I'll go with it. North America has always very intrigued me. Obsessed with it a lot of the time. And I found a lot of love in the United States, first of all. I love that lifestyle. I love all the sports. I love the positivity of North America. And I went to Atlanta first because I interned at CNN in the 90s. And so then I went there and did that. And then we came here as a family in 1997. I was 19. And instead of staying in hotels, we were brought in by friends of a friend, and we stayed with them for 2 weeks in Burlington, where I live now. And they would just stay with us. And then instead of getting that look of what it's like to be on vacation, we got that look of what it was like to live. Right. And we got another look and insight into what it was really like in North America to live as a family. So then we went back and started that whole process. And it wasn't an easy one. You have to go through and see whether you can get here. And I was then officially no longer a dependent on my parents because I was 21 or over. So my application took longer. They moved here before me, and I carried on. I was working full time in sports journalism in England for newspapers, and then they came, and then I went, and then eventually came afterwards. And so it's been 18 years now, which is incredible.
You said you like the positivity of North America. You still feeling that right now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you said positivity, and I'm like, yeah.
I'll tell you why. Maybe I live a bit of a sheltered life, but it's still remarkably positive for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily talking about culturally or obviously the big issues with, political leadership and things like that. I'm just talking about everyday interaction. That's mainly what I'm talking about. Workplaces, friends, family, lifestyle, things like that. Basically, the lens in which you watch the life appear in front of your eyes every day. And, look, obviously there's problems here culturally in North America, but by the way, they're also existing maybe even stronger right now with Brexit in the UK as well, which is a very difficult time for that as well. So nowhere's perfect, right?
No, nowhere is perfect. It must be the weather. That's what I'm going to say. It must be the gray skies. That's why. If there's less positive outlook, maybe it's the gray skies in London or in England that bring the people down. I always have a great experience whenever I go over, but I also get the ability to be the foreigner.
Yeah.
Right? And that's always...
look, there's a lot of things...
Item.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a lot of things about the country that is just brilliant and that I miss. Yeah. I miss the camaraderie a little bit. I miss the comedy. The comedy is by far and away the best comedy you'll ever find over there. I'm not just talking about what you're watching on TV. I'm just talking about between each other.
Yeah.
The ability to consistently have a go at each other and really know that they don't really mean it. Like when I first came here, I found myself doing that to some people, and then they were like, "Why are you being so mean?"
Yeah,
and I was like,
"What did I do wrong? What did I do to you?"
I didn't realize it was a little bit more of a sensitive culture here than it was there. So I certainly do miss that, and they know how to have a good time. They know how to have a good time, but they also work really hard, just like we all do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can be, it's an overpopulated country, it's a busy country, and as much as we live in a very busy area here, I still think that I can find a little bit more tranquility in this side of the world. Yeah,
I came across an interesting interview with someone. I was just watching it over the weekend, and it was just, it was a nothing interview. I don't want to say that, but, I'm just kind of going through things and my brain's processing. And he's an entertainer, he's a singer, and he said that, like, he pointed to these things he did at 3 years old, and just these funny little things as a child in all those formative years that his parents then always remind him of. It's like, remember, you used to stand in front of the radio and cry until we put it on. Right? Or you used to, like, dress up in your dad's most ridiculous stuff and dance around singing a song. He told a story where in grade school he brought in a recording of Born to Run that he had recorded off the radio and on the tape wrote his name on it.
Amazing.
And told all his friends that no, that was him, at whatever age he's at. And that immediately gave me flashbacks to me being a kid, and I had a flair for the dramatic.
Really?
I don't. Me get out of town. And I just remember putting on these plays with my cousins and my neighbors in my parents' living room, and they're holding a wine and cheese, and we're just determined to put on the 10 Commandments or something. We picked the most ridiculous thing to put on for them. You've always wanted to be in sports.
Yes.
How far back can you trace that? What earliest, are you with a notepad at 5 doing box scores?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, pretty much.
Know the answer
Not
to
box
that.
scores, but I mean, my dad loves sports, and so I was really just followed him everywhere I wanted to go. We grew up in a very sporting family, me and my dad and my brother. My mom just had to get involved, if she wanted to be. And she did. She went everywhere with us. And we went to watch lots of different sporting events, live sporting events too, which is something in the UK. I think they do a little bit better than they do here in terms of making sports more family accessible, I suppose. And there's lots of different levels. It's not just about the elite levels of the top class leagues. There's lots of other events going on in sports that are a little bit more, I guess the weather helps over there, that it's a little bit more open 24/7 than the real stark contrast of the weather you get in Canada. But yeah, I just loved it. You know, I love sports. And then my son's the same now that I was when I was a kid. That so many reenactments used to happen in my house, you know, so whether I was playing with soccer guys like in a Sputio playing or playing with, like, we're a big motorsport family, playing with bikes or cars as a kid, just on the floor playing with them, and then I would have pens and paper and I would create my own championships and all that stuff. You got it. From as early as I can remember that I wanted to do that. And you know, I wasn't blessed with incredible athletic talent in certain sports. There was one sport that I was pretty good at that wasn't soccer, but so then I realized that cricket actually.
Yeah. Oh,
but,
was it really?
Yeah. But other than that, there was really nothing else that I felt like that I could be really professional at. So I was like, okay, well, find a different way. And I love to write. I still do. That's really my major passion. I love writing, and from a very early age at school, the one class I loved was English, and I just wanted to just continue to bless. The dream scenario for me was watching sports and writing about it, or creating a story around that, and that's still the desire today.
You said your favorite course was English. I despised, for whatever reason, every English class.
Right.
I think it was more the forcing my hand to read something. Like it felt so structured for me.
Yes.
And I always, like, in my head, I was never going to take English as far as, like, after I didn't have to anymore. But then when I left high school, I had collected every single English credit available.
Right.
Including, like ancient writings, playwriting, English media, English literature, like everything. I don't know how it was. It just seemed like it was the next. I'm like, oh, and this seems interesting. Like,
yes. It's
not English. I'll just explore it. And this seems interesting. And I think it's just a way, it's the creativity working itself out.
100%.
And it's not the having to read a book. It's almost, for me, it was like having to BS the report at the end. And like how skillful could my writing be to convince a group of people that I know what I'm talking about when I don't. And funny enough, I think I've taken that through my career.
Oh, this guy, he's always self-deprecating. No, I know what you mean. I think there's an ability, for me, it was always an ability to take the reader, and I try to do this now as a viewer, to a place where they didn't see it, even if they did see it. You know what I mean? Show them something they didn't see and tell the story a little bit better than it could. And yeah, that's something that I'm talking to my daughter about now. She loves to write, but she doesn't like to read as much. So it's like, I'm just like, well, if you read more, you become a better writer. You know, it's obvious. So, but yeah, so that for me was something that I was always interested in. And, you know, I never would have imagined it would take me to television, but that was just, I guess, the way that the media works when I came here.
If we're on the same path, that means in a couple of years you're going to start a sports documentary, and then you'll do that, and you'll open up your own shop after
there
that.
You
because
go.
I broke in at writing. I was fortunate. I started writing. So you said that you love motorsports, and I got my start in automotive.
Right.
And so that's when I was first published at 18, was in automotive. And then I kind of went down, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to get into like more sports than just hardcore automotive. And then that's when I got my first job, like writing, because I did freelance pieces, and then that developed into a job where I was writing full time. And they're like, do you want to be a reporter, not just like a writer? I was like, oh, this is neat. And then that led me to on camera. And I realized, I think like, even though I love talking, I don't think I like the formality of being on camera.
Right.
You have to shave, apparently,
I just
every
told you
day.
that. Yeah, see?
Like, it's just hard. It just didn't work for me. And I moved into a producer role, I think, because I realized first of all, what an IFB was,
right,
and that you have someone in your ear, and then they're kind of, at least in my experience, they were giving me my points and counterpoints, and that was hard to not be independent. Like, I just didn't feel my independence there. But you come with such, and as a viewer, you come with such respect and such a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That whether it's Steven and Luke, or it's the producers that you work with, and I was lucky enough to meet with my time at Toronto FC, you guys all seem to have this brotherhood. And I say brotherhood because, in a way, we were talking about earlier, you can kind of take the piss out of each other every once in a while if you want to.
That happens a lot.
But at the same time, you can finish each other's sentences, and you just have that camaraderie.
Right.
How has the last 3 years, let's say, been for you as Steven's come in?
Yeah.
Because I knew him. I was lucky enough to work with him. And you guys have kind of almost solidified this group.
Yeah, it's been a dream, to be fair. I mean, I never imagined it would be this good. And look, I've been on camera now maybe for a decade in Canada. I was at the Score before that as well. My point being that found me rather than me finding it. Yeah. It was never a desire. You talked there about being the producer role. I did that for many years at the Score and loved it. I loved being able to put together a rundown and help I don't like this on-air talent thing that is discussed because there's so much talent in other areas, but that's what they call them, to help the on-air presenters, the broadcasters. And I always thought that I would be the behind-the-scenes guy, and then it just kind of felt the other way. But to get to your point about Luke and Steven, it's very difficult to find on-air camaraderie if you don't have it off the air. And we've all worked with people in the past where you get along and there's a relationship there, but I think that the best shows are when you know that these guys get along and you talk about finishing each other's sentences. It's just natural, and I've always done better with people without real egos. And I know that everyone will say, everyone's got a little bit of an ego, but I generally would tell you that the three of us are very, very similar. Like there's just no ego there, and it's just easy. And that speaks to both of them too. And I suppose some people would speak about me, but I'm better at speaking about others. To speak to them too, to what they've accomplished. I'm biased, but Luke is the best play-by-play soccer commentator in North America, and it's not close. What he does is magnificent, and he's as humble guy as you could ever meet, and he doesn't want the publicity and doesn't want to talk about it. But you talk about Toronto FC, they all their major moments, and they've had many over the last 3 seasons, have been narrated by him, and that'll be forever. And that speaks to his ability to be able to be involved in that position, but also TFC, and I think the people of Canada are very lucky to have the soundtrack accompanied by genuine world-class broadcaster like that. And Steven has come from the playing side, and to come in and have the respect of what we do immediately without showing any ego, and to just believe that there's a position for him to be able to talk about and me to talk about, not just from 2 players, is wonderful. He's accepted me and he's noticed how much work I put in, and I would never try and speak like what the accomplishments that he's had, as a player. So I always think there's to provide a different voice. But yeah, it's a long-winded answer to tell you that genuinely what you see on the camera is what we have off the camera. It's just easy for us 3 to get along.
I read the piece you wrote about, with Noel Gallagher over the weekend.
Yes.
And first of all, having grown up when I was born in '84,
right.
So all my formative years ended up being in the '90s when Oasis was gigantic,
right.
And they were like they were the top 3 bands, like hands down, on my cassette or on when you start burning CDs. 100%.
Yeah, Napster,
LimeWire. I don't suggest anyone use these things. Just buy the songs now.
It's scary that some people listening to this are probably like, "What's that?
What? Oh no." Napster. Is it a sleeping aid?
Exactly.
It's an alarm that only lets you sleep for the right amount of time.
Yeah.
But because I had read an interview with you that said that you were at a festival or something, and you felt Oasis was just way beyond you. Like they were so big.
Yeah.
And then here you are years later on a different continent, way advanced from that.
That's right.
And here's the person that you once thought was out of your reach.
Right.
And sports and media in general provides those opportunities, and I think that's kind of cool. I remember for me, I think it was my second ever interview was with Wendell Clark, and growing up a Toronto kid, having been born the year before he was drafted first overall, and having a dad who thought that Wendell was the second coming of Christ.
Right.
I was getting ready. I was told with like 30 minutes lead time that you're going to get him. We have him for you. And I'm pacing around, and as I told my mom the story afterwards, she went to my brothers and she was like, "I think Clayton's lost it. Like, I think he's so far down this hole that he doesn't know where reality is anymore.
Right.
You must have had, you have it probably at least a dozen of these experiences that you just get to add up and put in this experience bank.
Yeah, I've always had a real passion for interviewing people, and I try and make the interview always about them. And I think that's
where we differ.
No, this is very different. This is a conversation between us two. But I've had the fortune and pleasure of working with you on some of these projects now. So you've seen how we work together. Like we did the Zlatan together and different things. And the Noel Gallagher one came about because we'd worked with some people at TSN to know that he was in town, and we actually had a live Premier League game that day, and we were like, let's get him on the Premier League coverage. And then at that point, the collaborative, we came together and said, look, we need to be able to make sure that we get the best kind of interview here, because originally we were going to get back to your IFB point. We were going to do what we call in the industry a live double-ender. So we would be in the studio, all three of us. And at that point, I think it was Jason, Luke, and I. And we would get, join us now from Toronto Hotel is Noel Gallagher. And he'd be like, just listening to you. And
looking at a
and I'd be like,
camera.
Guys, this is a disaster. It wouldn't be a very good idea. So okay. So I said, we need to send someone there. And they're like, okay, you're going to do it. So they sent me there to do this interview. But the
no biggie.
But the funny story about this whole interview was, so you know that you can do interviews in the industry and you can be fake live. So you can do an interview and like, go live now to Toronto Hotel. And so I initially thought that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Because as you know, when I prepare for interviews, I do a lot of reading of books or watching many, many interviews. And I try to make, much like this Zlatan one, as unique as possible to people who've done literally thousands of interviews. I want that one to stand out and be different. So I'm preparing for this interview. And of course, Noel Gallagher, one of the major consistencies about all interviews is swearing. So we go, we're going to go live. I'm like, yeah, fake live. No, we're going to go live. I'm like,
what? Are you guys not do your research?
And then they're like, but you've got to tell him you can't swear. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Noel Gallagher's going to come in. I'm going to shake his hand and introduce himself. Hey, I'm Kristian Jack from TSN. By the way, we're doing an interview. You can't swear. That's not going to be well. Because, by the way, knowing Noel Gallagher,
hell, let's go.
Knowing Noel Gallagher, I think that will probably mean that he'll swear more.
Right, completely.
Right? So I'm like, no.
Like, don't test
So
me.
at this point, this is not. I'm no longer an interviewee. I'm a psychologist at this point. I'm like, I'm going to measure this room. So at first we're in there, and the execs from Sony are there, and then you think, okay, he's going to come in with his herd of people behind him. No, Noel Gallagher comes in. He's on his own. He comes in, sits down. He's class, actually. He's great with me. He's a Northwest lad. I'm a Northwest lad. He's Manchester. I'm Preston. He immediately starts talking off camera, thinking I'm an instant Man United fan. I'm like, no, not a Man United fan. Fine. So that makes him feel better already.
Better, yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, we're going to go live. So I tell him, thinking we're going to go live. And I'm at this point betting that he thinks, okay, we're live. This guy's a decent guy. I'm not going to be able to do the swearing. So we do the interview, 2 segments. We'll go back after the break. We do 2 different interviews. And it went swimmingly. It was great. So then afterwards, I finish him shaking hands. Okay, we're going to do one more, and it's a double-ender with Michael Landsberg on a OTR that was around at the time. So then I sit back and watch it. And at this point, I think he understands that it's not live. And then, every swear word comes out of his mouth. So I was like,
you're just dabbing your forehead. You're like, man, it doesn't have to be me.
Yeah. So they can obviously beat that out because it's fake live.
Pre-recorded.
But I'm looking back and it's still to this moment thinking, why did we not fake live these interviews? And why did you put me through all this unnecessary stress before I interview, as you said, one of the stars of and I went to his concert the night before as well. And he is great. He's great live. What a voice. And because I just love music, and so it was a special interview. It was great. It went really well, and again, put it down to some experience. And maybe next time if he comes, I still suggest we fake live.
We were talking earlier before we got on the mics about the connection of being in a group and witnessing something together. And that's why people still go to movie theaters, or that's why people go to bars and sporting events live, because they like the ability to share in a moment with a group of people. There's no better representation than at a music venue. And you know that every word that's being sung is only being sung in that one moment. And what an experience. I still, my brother and I travel every year, generally go see the Foo Fighters play.
Yeah.
Just because they've kind of been that band since we were kids or younger, teen years that we've connected to. And so we're like, we'll still do it. And we become like those guys.
Right.
And, this past Canadian Thanksgiving, we went down to LA because they put on Cal Jam, and here they brought out Chris Novoselic, and they played like 5 Nirvana songs.
Amazing.
Or 6 Nirvana songs using Joan Jett as one of the singers, and it was like you just can't believe what you're witnessing, and that's what music gives you. Not only does it give you a great story and incredible writing and all the things that I'm attracted to with entertainment normally, let alone the ability to play an instrument, which I pretend to, but I don't know, it's ranked right up there with my sports ability. But you get to experience something and have a moment with, at a concert, hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people that's so unique, and you have to be present for it. Yeah. And then you can leave it behind and put it in that memory bank as, I was there when that happened.
Yes.
And need to move on.
Yes, 100%. I worked at a radio station. My entire life has been about trying to get into the media industry. So when you graduate,
you succeeded. Well done.
Well, when you graduate from when I left school, I did media studies rather than just journalism right away. I did journalism in university, but media studies was great because it enhanced my passion for music and radio and photography and all of the different elements of media that they put you through to help you, to try and find the one that you really loved. I always knew that it was writing, but it was great to get that experience through everything else. And then I worked at a radio station, and we did lots of different stuff there. And actually, one of the venues that we once did, we hosted this venue with all these different people come in. The Spice Girls were there. This was.
I read about this.
Yes,
you were backstage.
I was backstage with the Spice Girls before they were really the Spice Girls.
And then you were like, "Oh, it doesn't matter."
Yeah,
because I'm here to see Cast.
That's right. Cast? Oh, that's my band, by the way. That's my band, Cast. Yeah, they still exist. They came back and they've been playing songs for fun over the last 3 years. But yeah, so I was there for Cast, and Spice Girls were literally like, we're sitting on the table right now. They were right next to us, but we didn't really know who they were at the time. And then they went on to be like mega stars, like in university in the 90s, like we were, like they were like the band, like a bunch of guys. It wasn't me, but I was given a different one. But for our Christmas party, I was given a different role. But 5 guys dressed up as the Spice Girls. Like it was they transcended music in England at that time. They were enormous, and I believe they're coming back and doing a concert next year in the UK, which has been an incredible sellout already. But yeah, music's been so important, and obviously Cast is not many people are going to know who they are, but like Cast, Manic Street Preachers, The Verve. I went to see The Verve live in Wigan, which is where they're from, and Hay Hall, and they're one of their first outside ever gigs. And Wigan was like 20 minutes from where I grew up. All of this is like northwest England. It's where I was. Cast is Liverpool, Manchester's obviously Oasis. So I was in the middle of it in the 90s, and but I love everything. I love all music. Like my parents were into Motown, and I love that. I'm a big Kygo fan. I love Kygo. Like
really,
yeah, I love. That's the thing I love. That's probably what I listen to more than anything right now. Yeah, I love Kygo. Everything that guy's done. I think he's an absolute genius. I just think everything that he can take and work with all these different artists and turn different songs into something that are just not anything like the concert he did at Hollywood Bowl it's just a must watch for people. I just think I love it. It's great.
First of all, music's such a form of identity.
Absolutely.
Growing up, sports wasn't so much because having grown up about 45 minutes north of Toronto, you are a Leafs fan. You are a Jays fan, seeing as though I was right at the right age to witness them win their 2 championships. So you don't really so much identify with sports because we all like the same thing. But music is that piece that you can wear on your shirt.
Great point, yeah.
And it says who you are, and it says what you believe in. But I remember it being towards the end of my high school years, where I realized, wait a minute, I was in English literature class.
Okay.
And seated beside me is this guy named Wes, and Wes wore really dark makeup and had really long hair, and he played in one of the hardest metal bands to come out of Newmarket, Ontario, but he really liked Beyonce, or he really liked Destiny's Child.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And he's like, no, but listen, like, it's clever. And we used to sing, like, Bills, 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 and Say My Name. We used to sing it back and forth in the class, and something clicked in my head. I'm like, oh wait, we can just like good music. Like we don't have to be so constrained by identity. And I wanted to just be a punk rocker. Or I just wanted to be into whatever. And then all my doors opened, and from that, like I then took a dive into classical, which is very interesting. And then country has become a big part of my life, and I never thought that would be the case.
Yep.
But the ability, much like I find in film, to express a moment or feel a moment more with a style of music, it becomes soundtracks to certain parts of your life. I think of Collective Soul as a band, and I always think of doing homework in grade 10.
Yes.
Right? And you just get these very visceral connections and memories because of them.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's what's great. As you said, I love how you put it as the soundtrack of your memories of your life, you know, and it's all about mood. It's all about the mood you're in and everything like that. And for me, I don't live close to where I work, so I have a long commute a lot of the time.
It feels so bad for you.
I don't mind it at all. It's fine. But a lot of the time, and you know, my other love for sport is baseball. So in my commute, if I'm not listening to baseball chat, I'm listening to music, and a lot of the time it's music. And particularly when if like some of the World Cup shifts we pulled this year were very long, but even just the Premier League double header shift, you know, when you talk like that on air for a long time, and it requires a lot of maximum concentration. I'm far from saying that it's a strenuous job. I'm not claiming that, but it is something you have to pick your right words and everything. You can be mentally exhausted by the end of it, so you get in the car, you just want to relax, and that's what I couldn't even imagine those drives if it wasn't for some of those bands that we mentioned and artists like Kygo.
I heard about the book. Is the book true? There's like the lore of your book, and you just have these.
My notebooks.
Your notebooks.
Yeah, I have many. Yeah.
So. Obviously, okay. So
Stevie will probably be able to tell you all about that.
I'm speaking in code and in secret here. Everyone kind of handles. I think of Paul Hendricks, someone that I shadowed and looked up to in my time in hockey.
Great.
And he has these manila folders.
Okay.
And it's filled with information, but more than that, it's the things he's written in permanent marker on like the wings of the folder, front and back.
Yes.
That's kind of his cues, and it's what helps him. You know, it's his preparation method.
Right.
You have like volumes, I'd imagine, of books from all your years covering sports.
That's right.
And that's your method.
Yes.
How does take us into a page or a preparation for a match, let's say?
Well, so I have, depending on the season, I have the notebook. So it's usually 300 pages, and then I'll have tabs depending on, so I can quickly get to the teams. Quickly, a quick story on this. This began when I was at the Score doing live games with James Sharman. And I quickly realized that, the ability to know everything immediately was very important, or know things that you wanted to talk about was very important. So when we're doing live television and you're going back and forth and things would develop very quickly, you don't know where you're going to go. So you don't know who's going to score a goal or where the story is going to go or who's going to lose heavily. And you've got to know that very, very, very quickly. And so it might literally be, okay, we're coming back up the break. All right, now we're going to talk about this team. Mm-hmm. And it's like, all right, we're going to ask you this about this team. It's like, okay. So for you to completely keep that whole thing in your mind, there's some people who do it. They're complete geniuses. I don't have the ability to keep everything in your mind the entire time. And so I would prepare that way for that, and I've continued that ever since. World Cups, European Championships, Major League Soccer seasons, everything. So I have the ability to just go back and look at things, make notes myself, but it features everything. It features results, stats, quotes, a lot of quotes, a lot of managers' quotes, a lot of ideas that I've written down, and stories when I read the newspapers, because people would say, well, why don't you just put it on a computer, and then because it was. To be frankly, it was the ability to get to it as fast as possible that was important about writing it down. And also, there's something about when you write it down for me that it sticks. Yeah. And it was sticking a little bit more rather than if I just type it into a file in a Google Doc. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I've typed it in, then I can type that in. It's fun. Is my brain really working at that point? It's not. It's just automatic, And
I think there's something with the eyes, interaction with the flickering computer screen.
Right.
That kind of like shuts something off back there.
Yes.
And you ask the guys here, and I feel bad, but whenever they have something to send me, I'm always like, can you please just print it out?
Yes.
Like I need to put something into my hands and flip through it and use a pen and make marks on it in order to interact with it. And then it's like we have this little relationship now, me and the information.
Yes, and I have these relationships with these 4-color pens. They're very big for me. It's the only thing I use. The Bic 4-color pens.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Like the red, blue, black, and green?
That's the one.
What do you use the green for?
Everything. Different things. Different things. So it would be different.
No one uses green.
No, I don't use the green. To be fair, you bring that up. It's a great point. I've thrown out many pens where there's only green ink left.
Right.
Yeah,
You're like,
so
what am
you're
I
right.
going to do with
yeah,
this?
but most of the time, so
You should give it to your boy.
I should.
He's like, this is amazing. I have a green pen. No one uses green.
It's true. I don't use green very often because when you write it, it just doesn't stand out off the page enough. So maybe they should change that color to something else. I'll take suggestions. But yeah,
Orange would be
exactly.
great. A highlighter. Just make it a highlighter.
Highlighter would be great. So yeah, and the other thing too is I create spreadsheets for the teams.
Mm-hmm.
So on each team page, I have like all the players down the one side, and I'll do this for TFC or for Premier League and everything. And then I have boxes, like, so if they play 34 games, I'll have 1 to 34, and then down, so I'll have codes. So if they play the 90 minutes, they get like a red tick. If they play 25 minutes, they get like a blue 25, things like that. Just so I know. So a quick glance, and ability to know he played last week, or he didn't play last week, or Greg Vanny makes 3 changes this week, and here you go, these are the teams. Or like I know instantly because I looked at it, but that TFC only played the same lineup back-to-back games last year once, and that Drew Moore and Chris Mavinga didn't play a game together last year. Didn't play 1 minute together in MLS, and I knew that right away because of what my page tells me.
That's wild. First of all, to know that they had to go through the whole year not having 2 of your
the 2 best center backs. Yeah,
they can't play a minute together.
Yeah,
I. Admittedly, I've told this to Sean before, and he thinks I'm crazy. I was very intimidated by you, dead serious, in the first few years, because, and I think it's.
And Sean would know why that sounds ridiculous, because Sean and I go way back at the score.
To the score,
yes.
Exactly, and he may have even been the one that when we were both still with Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, that like talked me off a ledge and was like, no, like just say hi, like it's cool. But it's very much, I think, an information thing.
Okay.
Because I was given the opportunity, when I did All for One, I was given the opportunity off the back of a documentary I did in hockey. And they're like, oh, you want to do this thing and you can kind of tell a story? What do you think of this? You have a TV series. And I'm the first one to say yes. And then I had to like crunch 3 weeks of like everything that exists in the football world, into 3 weeks. And I thank many people, one of them being Jason Bent.
You did amazing, though.
Who did, well,
fantastic.
All I did was ask people to talk to me about it. I think when I watched the first season of All for One, I find it almost the truest, just because I can see me learning as I'm going and figuring out.
Right.
And so I think inherently in you comes this feeling like someone's going to figure out that I'm a fraud, and I'm trying to learn, and I'm not quite there. And you were always the guy, because not only were we at games a lot, I then go back and I watch them all, and so I can process it, because as I said to you earlier, I need the commentary to really start understanding why things happen.
Yep.
Which was always funny, because when we'd be at the meal room, like on the road, they'd always have the afternoon game on, let's say, if we're playing Columbus at night, and the players would never listen to commentary, be on mute. And I'm like, I don't know who anyone is. Like, please, you got to flick it on. I don't know what it was, but it was sometime the 2016 season.
Okay.
I started to make these like small steps, and I'd say hello when you're on the sideline.
Right.
And I think my favorite football memory was the second leg, the home match. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking of it. Toronto versus Montreal in the conference finals. And that game goes off, and I look over my shoulder, and we caught eyes, and we both have a big dumb grin on our face. Yeah. And that becomes my favorite football memory ever, which is kind of neat. But also the backstory of having this person present that you're very intimidated by, and I'm like, well, he's going to know I'm a fraud, like that I can't do it. And that's probably why I never used you for an interview.
Really?
Until we did Champions League.
We did Champions League, yeah. We were in Mexico together.
We were in Mexico. That was a ride.
Yeah, that was fun. I'll take that again. That's an interesting one. I mean, I don't know why that would be the case, but I guess, part of my personality is that I'm not incredibly outgoing. Like, some people think that when you get in a position like I am, that, it's like sometimes I'll get these requests to go MC things, and I'll be intimidated by that. And people are like, well, why wouldn't you want to go like MC an event with 300 people in that? Like, you talk to 200,000 people every weekend.
I would do that.
And I would be like, no, I talk to a cameraman.
Okay, right.
And I've been quite fortunate that I've never been nervous on air. Mm-hmm. I don't get nervous. the adrenaline kicks in and you get excited, but I've never been nervous on camera. I think that maybe speaks to, I don't get nervous about really anything. I mean, I've been quite blessed. My family's healthy, and other than that, what's really important? You know what I mean?
Completely.
But when it comes to like public speaking, I'm like, no, that's not really me. So I've never been that person. The long story short is, I've never been that person that would be really outgoing and be overly straight away. You know, so. You and I have known each other a long time now, so it's easier. But once people come to me and I can engage in that conversation, I'm easy to talk to. But after that, I'm not necessarily that person who will go out there and make people. I'm trying to get better at that, and I think that my wife's incredible at that, and she's the person who, if you have a good waiter, will immediately tell them, you are an amazing waiter. She'll tell them that you're an amazing waiter, and I've always taken that on, and she's taught me the ability to tell people what a great job that they do. And I think that feedback in life is very, very small, and it's poor. People are very poor at giving feedback, and it's just an email or a word that you can turn someone's day, and it just costs nothing, and to turn around and say, you do a great job, or thank you for, and I'm getting better at that, because I feel like that it just makes us a little bit better at everybody in the world. Everyone could do that one time per day. Right. Thank you. You do a great job. And it's just easier, I think.
I was out with someone for lunch, and we kind of went into this discussion about life, and, we're kind of these meat sacks that float around and sometimes bump into each other. And I said, imagine you learn that you've changed someone's life positively once.
Yeah.
So you live your whole life, but that the reason for that whole existence is because you made someone's life better once. And I'm like, imagine do that once a year and how much that would mean. Imagine do that once a month,
right,
and how much that means.
Right.
But I have crazy social anxiety, so I won't be that person.
Right.
Like, it makes me really nervous. But oddly enough, if you were to give me a room of 5,000 people, 100%, give me the microphone.
Right.
Because that's... I'm protected in some weird way.
Right.
But if you give me like a dinner party of 10 people,
right,
I am like crawling on the way there out of my skin, trying to like, oh, maybe I'm sick. Do I feel a tickle in my throat? Is there something? I'm like, oh, maybe my ear's itchy. I better not go. I better go see a doctor. Because that idea of engaging like a group of 10 people personally really bothers me. And that kind of works itself down to, once I can, like you, break that threshold, well, I can sit here and we could talk for hours. I can keep
100%.
going.
I'm with you. Did I hear somewhere that you did something with people with brain injuries at one point?
I did.
I did that too.
No way.
Yeah, so this is relevant to the discussion, because one of the things I struggle with now is that 95% of my workload is towards my job consistently, right? So I'll have these discussions sometimes with Jenny, and I'll be like, there's a part of me that feels like I'm not giving back enough. You know what I mean? And when I worked with people with TBI, so traumatic brain injuries. And,
so did I.
Right. And when I first moved to Canada, I couldn't get a full-time job in the media. I did everything. I said yes to everything, worked, 14 hours and volunteered everything. But in order to keep the bills going, I worked with a company that said to me that we need a rehabilitation coach, basically, that you work with speech pathologists and language pathologists, and you are the person that is worked directly with this person who's acquired their brain injury, usually through motor vehicle accidents. So my youngest client was 5, my eldest was 88. And it was such a thrill for me during that 4 or 5 years when I was here. And eventually, in order for me to carry on this career path, I had to put it aside. But it ticked those boxes for me.
Completely.
It was sometimes very, very difficult because you just don't know what you're going to get out of them every day. And God bless them, it was tough for them. But I guess my personality style was what they wanted at that point, and that's why we work well together. But still, to this day, I still think about those moments and still have a desire to do stuff like that. Yes. Can I just say yes? And it's just like, we understand that we completely get each other in this moment. Yeah. So you did something similar, did you?
I did, yeah. And I didn't work for a company, though. I had gone through something with a family member when I was in my early 20s. And just because someone knew that experience, they referred me to a single person, and they said, listen, I'm pretty sure you guys would work well for each other. The person who referred me was part of the treatment team, and that person had been in a motor vehicle accident, so that was the first. But then from there, it got... Because you become part of a community of occupational therapists, speech pathologists, as you said, and it's a pretty tight community because they work with a roster of people, and and you can start seeing, oh, you could use the help of this person. And so then I moved on. So I worked with, yes, I had a group of clients, 100% that had been had acquired adult onset brain injury.
Right.
But then they moved me into people with later disorders.
Okay.
Right. So a handful of ADHD,
right.
With Asperger's, stuff like that. And it's just something, I don't know what it is. It's something, I don't know. I have puffy cheeks. I'm not sure.
Right.
But there's just something there. And my communication style worked in that. And much like you, in order to, I think I was on the second year of the show when I finally had to leave it, because I couldn't, I had shrunk down my client base, but I couldn't even manage the 5 that I kept.
Right.
And I had to leave it, and that was very hard for me. And last Christmas, a year ago, I actually flew to Vancouver and spent with one of the families that I had worked with like 10 years ago.
Amazing.
Because that's kind of the connections you build.
Yes.
And I think those are all the pieces that I've taken into, that I applied to my interviewing.
Yes.
Right? When you are just trying to connect with a human, and you're just trying to see things the same way, and relate, or maybe not relate, but just kind of figure that out and figure that balance out with someone else. And I don't do it consciously, but I think that's just what my brain wants to do when I'm, talking with whoever it might be.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. Yeah, it was much like you. I was doing it during the day, and then I was working as a script writer for people like Tim and Sid and Greg Sansoni and Martine and all those great people at the Score for many years. When I first started the Score in 2003, I was doing that from like 6 o'clock till 2 in the morning, and then I would go back and start again, and then eventually opportunities started to come at the Score where they were like, we need you during the day. And I've said this to many people before in other areas. When people ask me about the industry, you just said yes to everything. Do you know CFL? Yes, I do know CFL. Of course. I don't. I'll figure it out.
Do I know soccer?
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yes,
of course.
You do. But you say yes to everything and you figure it out later. And in the end, the responsibilities at the Score started to come more and more on me, and the other area got marginalized. Thankfully, it wasn't a full-time job. You could just pick and choose what you wanted. And I tried to keep the balance of both eventually until it just became too much. But it was very rewarding, and areas of that life I still miss, because look, I go to work and then we talk about football and we talk about tactics and we talk about Jose Mourinho and we have fun and we talk about TFC and we broadcast everything, but we're not saving lives here and we're not making a difference. The only solace I take from it is that there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of people who have a heartache every single day. There's a lot of people who go to work and work many, many hours at jobs that they don't like, and they turn to sports as that release. And that's what I try and provide. And that's what I say to people who work with us all the time, guys, with a release. With, let's have some fun here. Let's find a blend between entertainment and informing. Yes. At the end of the day, we don't all need to be serious, but people are coming to us because they haven't had the chance to follow the storylines of the week. They've been working so hard, or God forbid, a family member is poorly or sick or something, and they're coming and they're just, for that 2 hours, they just want to sit on their couch and forget about unfortunately the problems in their life, and they just want to be entertained and watch a soccer game. And that's what we try and do.
And at the same time, even maybe there are some people out there that things aren't going terribly. Let's hope that you have a couple of viewers.
That's true.
Life is just
100%.
But
100%.
There's something to routine.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like the guys that go down to the same pub every Tuesday night with their same friends, and they've been doing it since they were 21, and they just do it because there's something to having that constant rock in your life just sitting there that they like.
Yes.
And that's what you guys, that's what Saturday morning is for me with you guys. And you've seen me many times. I don't know why, because I'm a child. I'll tweet. I'll be like,
we love it.
What's going on? Maybe it's a piece of me that's like, I've got friends, guys, I swear. Like, I know them. But for me, it is just, I love having that routine Saturday morning, because I get to get up after you've gotten up, no doubt. And I get to sit down and kind of chill with you guys for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And let the fog clear of the week, and then I'll get up, and then I'll go, early afternoon, I start doing my chores around the house, and then do what I have to do in the evening. But I just love that routine of it all, and I think so many of the viewers, yes, But that's escape too. I guess
Yes.
that's what that is an escape, and maybe it's not from problems, but it's just you want that couple weeks or those couple hours with your three pals.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the beauty of the sport in this country is the time that the games are on. There's something about
I love that.
There's something about having that live morning games where you can get together. And I know guys who get together every week in Toronto and they'll have like an English fry up and they'll watch the games together. You know what I mean? And then they can still go home and be with their families in the afternoon. They can still go and still have the majority of the day with them, and the morning provides that. And even in the afternoon, if kids can come home from school and watch some games, they can do that. So no, I understand that. And as you said, it's a release away from that. And I think some of your tweets, so I always smile because a lot of them were like, we were together the night before at some TFC game. More often than not, it was raining because that's what always happens.
We were wet poodles.
We were soaked, and then the next morning you're probably waking up and go, oh, there he is again. And like there was a time where, because obviously my two colleagues that we talked about before, they get to stand up in their posh ivory tower, when it's raining, and like just laugh at me when I'm down on the sidelines with you or whatever, getting absolutely drenched. And so at one point we had a game, it was last season or the season before, where it was a complete like monsoon at BMO Field, as it often is, and I get home and I'm like a drowned rat, and then eventually wake up the next morning, come in and do the Premier League, and sometimes we'll tell stories off the air. And most of the time, they don't go on the air. But this one, Wildman just decided that it was like, oh, I'm now joined by Steven Caldwell and KJ, who slept with a hat on all night last night because he was. And then I'm like, all right, you want to go there? Well, you two were in your suits up in the top while I was getting soaked. Yes, and I did sleep with a hat on, and it becomes like a running joke. You know what I mean? So it's like, but that game against Montreal that you mentioned, that was one of them. It had everything. It was the rain. That night afterwards, thankfully, I didn't have to go do Premier League because I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go to bed. I didn't go to bed because it was one of those. Whenever you do night games, you're the same. I'm sure you can't just go home and fall asleep.
No.
There's adrenaline that's kicked in. There's an emotional thing that you've seen. And that night, I remember getting home and I just had this burning desire to write. And I got home at 3 a.m. and I just wrote. I just put my music on and I just kept writing about that night. And I don't know whether some of it got published, some of it on tsn.ca, some of it may get published in a book one day. I don't know. It may never get seen, but I have those immediate thoughts and emotions right now written down from that. And then the next minute, TSN Radio's calling me for a hit at 6:30 in the morning. Like, sorry to wake you up. Sorry, I haven't been to bed.
No, I'm still good.
They're like, I'm still good. Yeah. So
I remember at one point stepping back under the canopy, like in the South End, and being like, oh, it's actually better in here.
Right.
I'm like, it does a lot to shield people from the rain. This is great. And then I have to step forward. And then most of the nights, as you see, for whatever reason, I've decided that being low is really helpful. And so I'm kneeling most of the nights, and my legs are just drenched. And I swear, when my bones get creaky now, and I think it's because of kneeling in the rain on grass at BMO, which was definitely a short-term win and a long-term fall.
You're like a Major League Baseball catcher now.
That's exactly what I am. Yeah. And I'm going to get my cane by age 37. It's going to be great. And a walker by 42. It's special. Those nights are special. And you said that burning sensation to write. And I was going to ask you that. Do you still get it? Clearly the answer is yes. Because, and I tell whoever I talk to this, writing for me has been the foundation of everything. That no matter what, I can still write. And we did a brand spot for a team recently, and I wrote the manifesto for it because your brain is there, and no matter what, I'm like, I can always go back to writing, and it feels like home, and it almost becomes a better expression than anything I can do with a camera or an editing bay, because I'm like, no, I can say exactly how I feel, and I can just put it down, and whether it's for me or whether it's to be read, it's exactly how I felt in that moment. Are you still finding your outlets in your life to get that out? Yeah, I mean, the media is changing, right? This is the concern. I don't do anywhere near as much writing professionally than I did when I first started at TSN, and that's not that long ago, or certainly at The Score. And that is the decision of some people that believe that there's just not enough people out there who are willing to read stuff anymore, which I understand, and everything's about immediacy now, and everything's about attention spans and who's going to open that click and who's going to spend more than 10 seconds reading an article. I get all that, but I do feel like that is the art of writing is not dying because of it, and this is still going to be there no matter what the era. When we're way gone, people are still going to want to read about books, and so I actually think
my own, maybe this is just my own interest, but I do think that speaking to some people, the long format of writing is coming back. Because
agree.
I think that everybody is now 600 words. No more than 600 or 900 words. Get it done. And it's like, okay, it's just literally something you can read like when you're waiting for the train or something on the platform in 2 minutes. And it's like, I'm a big substance person. Yeah. I love to bring substance to things. Let's get deeper, right? Let's get deeper in all of our conversations. Let's be open and honest and get out there and get deep into the stuff. And you can't do that with 600 words.
No.
You can't.
You can.
You cannot. And there are people out there that want to get deeper because they want to be informed. Mm-hmm. Educate, inform, entertain. Mm-hmm. Let's get those boxes ticked every time. Mm-hmm. And there's still a reason for that. And the newspapers are still surviving, thankfully, which is a difficult era. And I still believe, and hopefully I'll be writing more and more going forward. And I still think there's something there.
I don't, 100 years from now, they're not going to look back at a 400-word update.
No.
To have a key into who our society is.
100%.
Someone will have written a long-form book of how we went through a phase that we only wrote 400 words at a time.
Yeah.
And that it was like the max amount that our brain allowed.
Yeah.
But my doorway into writing was doing long form features.
Right.
And that's just where I like to live.
Yeah.
And Sean and I talk about this all the time, that we believe that, yes, it's on the rise or it's on the comeback, but there's going to be the right avenue for that. And it's on people like us, I think, almost to start creating the right avenue.
Yes.
Because we're both fortunate in the sense that you're 18 years here. 2000.
Yeah, 18 years in Canada, yeah.
And I'm 2 decades into a media career, which I can't believe. Like,
Same,
you would tell 5-year-old me that I'm going to spend 20 years in sports.
Right.
He'd probably say how, because he was smart. But I hope we can find a way.
I do too.
I hope we can find a way because I miss that, and I, much like you, have gone home and I'll write long pieces and be like, well, I have nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
So it just gets saved in a draft, and maybe it comes out one day.
One of the nicest things people said to me, I remember a couple of people said to me that night, actually, what I wrote about that night in Montreal, that Montreal game, someone was like, oh, frame that. I framed it. I printed it out, framed it, and put it on my wall. And I'm like, that kind of stuff sticks with me because when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an artist, and I'm rubbish at drawing, right? So I never understood this aspect of why we go to art class, because I'm like, no, I just can't draw. I could sit here with an art teacher for the rest of my life, and you could teach me different strategies and different ways to draw. I'm rubbish. I don't have the ability to draw well, so it's pointless, But so my way of expressing a wonderful piece of art is trying to do it that way, and that's like you, the same way in your capacity, that your ability to try and reach sustained excellence, every single thing you put out there, that's art. It's the same way, and it's a level of and you will not put out things that you're not completely satisfied with. It's the same with us, in our industry.
It's a weird, like, damning sword, isn't it? Where sometimes you're like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
It can't. And I've been told you can make this so much easier on yourself.
Yeah.
Clay, you can just make this so much easier on yourself. Just slap some footage together and kick it out. And I'm like, are you out of your mind?
No.
But for whatever reason, and there's no byline on videos, but I'm like, my name's on this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't just put it out.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel anything yet. And they're like, what? It's a ticket promo, Clay. I'm like, I need to feel something.
I'm the same way. Every broadcast we do, when we were doing Champions League, Europa League, Premier League, MLS, and like we don't have Champions League and Europa League anymore, but we got to the point where World Cups, we were doing almost 200 shows a year, sometimes live shows. And it's not just the live show, it's the preparation you've got to put in. And the thought of showing up to a show, and maybe I've only done it once or twice, even thinking about it, I get this hole in my stomach, feeling like not prepared for that show. And like, oh, no, it's okay. It's just a Thursday Europa League. And it's like, no, it's not. It's like somebody out there is watching.
It's everything you are.
Somebody is watching.
Yeah.
That's their big show that day. Or somebody's watching that for the first time. And let's go out there and show them, no, we can do this.
That's someone's Preston out there.
Right, yeah.
That's what's
exactly.
going on.
Right? So anyway, that's just, I'm with you. Just try and be the best you can be every time.
That works well, because I think I've kept you for an hour, and I know you have a busy day, but that works perfectly in the way I like to end every single show or every single podcast, because I believe that we have the ability to wake up every morning and set our mind on exactly who we want to be and be the best version of ourselves, regardless of maybe where we fell short yesterday or the day before. And you know, it's I think kind of damning of, or it's very indicative of our society of being like, well, you know what, I had pizza last night for dinner, so I guess I'm just going to wake up and have shit today.
Right.
Like, but I believe you can wake up every morning and make an effort and do even like all the small things you do add up to the big things.
Yes.
I once had a client actually tell me that someone I had worked with, that she had been told, if a person can wake up every morning and make their bed, that person can conquer the world. And I thought that was brilliant, because I know even with myself how hard it is to wake up and just want to make my bed every morning. And I think of her every single day as I get up and I'm like, oh, I better get off to work. I'm like, take 2 minutes, make your bed.
Yeah.
Because if you can set your mind upon one thing, you can set your mind upon everything. And so with that, I like to tell everyone to do the simplest thing they can and be good to themselves and eat their vegetables. So if you can help me with this as we say goodbye,
Yep.
from myself, from Kristian Jack, from Dylan, obviously, you know, running the levels, doing all the technical producing, from Luca, who edits this afterwards, and from Sean, who does tons of great things and keeps me sane most days. Everyone, please, please, please be good to yourself.
And eat your vegetables.